for new investment in the city. So it's a real property tax incentive on a portion of new investment for real property. The city allows for up to 49% without school board approval. So that is what we're looking at this evening. So again, nothing gets taken off the tax roll. It's on new investment, not existing investment, up to 49%. And the number of years varies based upon whether it's a rehab, brand new construction, housing, or commercial development. We're looking at 2 commercial projects this evening. Housing projects automatically are eligible as long as they meet the guidelines. Commercial projects require this committee to approve them, and then they go on to full city council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Tom, anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to add again, I think these are 2 really neat projects because we have one bigger business that's been existing in the community for a while that's really trying to expand and make a bigger investment in the community, which is outstanding. And then we also have a smaller business that's coming in and trying to renovate a building that, quite frankly, is kind of falling apart. So it's great to see that kind of investment in the community. We're seeing a lot of momentum. And I think these are both really great projects. Both entities are going to put a lot of money into rehabbing their spaces to fit their needs.
Great. You guys have any questions? Either of you?
We will probably, we're receiving these now and then we'll review. And are these just going to go straight from here to council?
Yeah, they'll go from here to council. If we're okay with them, then they'll go to council for council's vote approval, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, I haven't had time to.
Oh, yeah.
To review these.
Okay.
So are we planning on sending them out to council after this meeting?
I would say it'd probably be on for maybe the first one in March.
Okay.
Give us time to.
Yeah, instead of, having a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And then, Tom, if I could request that the other council people get copies of these as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you're able to get them out tomorrow or Friday for packets, that way they have them.
Sure.
And they can review them over the next couple of weeks and ask any questions as well.
Yeah, that's not an issue. That'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah. I think to clarify as well, the 49% is on the improvement, right? So it's not
Correct.
the improvements. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's property tax. So.
Right, so it's not just on just like anything and everything. It's on strictly just the improvement parts
Correct.
of whatever they're doing.
So would it,
Not purchase.
it's basically like you make improvements to the property, which increases the value of the property.
Correct.
49% of that is deferred.
Correct. So it does not include the land.
Right, it's just the actual physical
To the
improvement.
land, right.
Okay.
And I'm looking for it in here. You said the time frame you don't know, or you do know. Are they in here?
Both of these are
12-year.
12 years.
Right.
Yeah, because they're renovations.
Both are renovations.
New builds can go up to 15 years, I believe, and then renovations are 12, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for them?
I mean, I won't be able to read it all, so we'll just wait.
Actually, and we have someone here from Encore?
We do, yeah. We have,
All right, very cool. If you want to come on up, share with us a little bit about your project, where it is, what you're doing, and...
Okay, the project is 4620 Wesley. So it's actually the last remaining building from the old GM assembly plant. Prior to us having it, MedPace had it. It was their headquarters for about 10 years. Prior to that, I think it was a builder's warehouse.
Yes.
We bought the building to use as a data center. We're an IT company. We started in January of 2016. Started from scratch.
Did you want to wait until just so we can pay attention?
Okay.
Whenever we have a late councilman come in late, the alarm goes off. You're good.
So we started the business, or I started business from scratch in 2016. Prior to this, I was the president of CBTS, and I moved that business to Norwood, and let's see, I started at Cincinnati Bell in '99 in August, and by December, I'd moved my business here, just because, well, my mom's from Norwood, I grew up Pleasant Ridge, and the city of Cincinnati was difficult to get, building permits and things like that. Norwood was much friendlier. So then CBT, Cincinnati Bell, decided to move all that business out downtown, and so I disagreed with that and decided that I was going to open my own business and I was going to compete with them, and that's what we have there. So if you look at Encore Technologies, it basically is the same thing that Cincinnati Bell Technology Solutions did. I started that business, as I mentioned, and this business is replacing it. So the business, we started out with one employee, me. We have 200, a little over 200 now. Our revenues last year were 137 million and change. And we have a 10,000 square foot data center in the building now, which I built initially. We invested about $8 million in that. We have another customer. That customer is Fifth Third Bank. They are looking to move their primary data center out of Florence and into our building in Norwood. And it's going to be another between $8 and $9 million investment that we're going to need to make to do that. With that investment will also come jobs. We're building out a portion of the building for Fifth Third. They're moving jobs there, and it'll be around the clock, 7 by 24. So they'll have 3 shifts, and we'll continue to add jobs as we continue to grow, both in support of this project and many other projects that we're working on that don't necessarily require capital, which is why I'm only here to talk about this one.
Great, sounds good.
Any questions?
Well, we appreciate your continued bring business here to Norwood, and we appreciate that very much. So,
well, you've been very friendly to us, been very easy to work with. Mark Reeves couldn't be easier to work with. Every time I need something and I call him, he's been absolutely fantastic, and happy to be here.
did I see in maybe one of the other meetings that you guys are you the one that's going to be fencing off?
Yes.
To where for security purposes?
That was part of the requirement for Fifth Third, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you describe that just a little bit?
The fence?
Yeah.
The back is done, so if you want to look at it, you can see what it's going to look like. We don't want to put the others because if we, assuming this deal gets done, we're going to move some very heavy machinery there, huge generators, and so that's why it's not complete. But ultimately, it's I consider it a tasteful fence. It's a black, not wrought iron, but it looks like aluminum, but it's not. It's a very heavy fence. Our employees, whoever goes into the building, will now need to go through man traps. Cars will need to go through a sally port in order to get through the fence. So it'll be a much more secure building. We're actually going to put a security hut within the building, which has bulletproof glass, where their security and our security will sit. It's a 7 by 24 facility. So it'll be, it'll be really an impressive facility.
There'll be no more cutting through off of Wesley over to Forest anymore.
No, I'm so tired of dodging cars and playing Frogger when I walk through there in the morning. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You can still cut through, I think, but you're going to earn it.
Right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I did have a question about I kind of heard that if you have a CRA and there's more than $1 million of new payroll, that there's potentially some share that might have to be given to the schools. I didn't know if Tom or Catherine might be able to talk about that a little bit.
So
If you can go to Mike.
Tom and I have been working on it.
Come right, yeah, just so people can hold it.
So Tom and I have been working on it. It really doesn't impact the company, so don't worry, John. So, yes, it's called revenue sharing. If the new payroll exceeds $1 million, The jurisdiction is required to work out an agreement, a revenue sharing agreement with the school board. If they don't work out an agreement rather, within 6 months of the CRA going into effect, the new earnings tax on the new employees is split 50-50. So as far as I can tell, we've been going through all of the residential and commercial CRAs. As far as our inspection has indicated, there hasn't been a revenue sharing agreement to date on the commercial agreements, CRA agreements that the city's entered into, because none of them have met that $1 million in new payroll threshold. So Tom is very well aware of it, and so is the mayor. And that is something that the city is going to have to negotiate with the school district.
Is that something that's done like now? You said 6 months from when the CRA goes into effect?
Within 6 months of it going into effect, so.
So is that something that you need to be negotiating with the schools now, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I would just say on this, if this is going to be something that we're going to have to worry about, is that we're potentially going to be giving up more earnings tax than we would have lost on the property tax side, because we get such a small percentage of the property tax. So just something I think that we should all be fully aware of and fully informed on when it does come time to vote on it. But I mean, I think that the opportunity is really good. So I mean,
and understand one thing of this, when I talk about those jobs, those don't count in this because they're Fifth Third jobs, they're not Encore jobs. I'm not saying Encore won't be any jobs, we will, but it won't have to do with this. This will be Fifth Third jobs that come in, and they'll be paying Norwood taxes, and they don't have any agreement for tax abatements or anything.
Okay, so actually that's a good question then. So you're saying that the 85 jobs that are talked about here, is it 85 new Norwood jobs? Is that, or plus or minus? I mean,
that's ours. Yeah, that's separate. That's separate from Fifth Third.
Okay,
that's over 5 years. Yeah.
I think it's over 3.
3 years worth.
so then, how many employees do you think Fifth Third is going to have at your facility?
I think it's around 30.
Something say 300, but you know, that's 30 is good too. So,
No,
yeah. Yeah, we're really trying to get you, I think, to the point. We're just trying to replace MedPace, you know,
Yep.
essentially. So just keep growing with us, and I think you'll get there. No, but that's helpful. I just think, Tom, we just need to make sure that we understand what we're potentially giving up if it is something that we're going to have to give up.
We would just be giving it part of the new payroll, correct? It wouldn't be.
That's correct.
So it's only 50% of the new payroll created.
I get you. I just think we should be fully informed. I'm not saying that it kills anything. I'm just saying I think we should all understand what we're voting on. Is all I'm saying. So.
Good. Anything else? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Ash Patel, Norwood Manor.
Hello, Ash Patel with 4631 Montgomery Road. Our goal is to take this building that has been vacant for 3 to 5 years and turn it back into a really great destination. It's going to be an event center, and the apartments above will be completely rehabbed. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the rear of the building has a courtyard that we're hoping to make into an outdoor seating area.
So tell us exactly, that's the, what used to be a lawyer's office, and then before that was a dentist office way back in the day.
Correct.
But it's between Anna's Kitchen, which you are also redeveloping.
Correct.
And
The Pike Street Cafe.
Pike Street Cafe.
Okay.
It's the building between those two.
Yeah.
So it's, the building's in pretty rough shape right now. Roof's leaking, it's got mold, asbestos. The courtyard currently houses toilets and tires, and it's overgrown. It's just been a neglected eyesore of a building for several years. And like the previous gentleman mentioned, Norwood's been a charm to work with. I've done redevelopment in a number of municipalities, And being this close to the center of Cincinnati instills fear in a lot of people that are doing development work. But Norwood has been an absolute breeze. Great people to work with, timely answers. It's just been a great experience so far.
Very good. Well, that'll be nice to spruce up that block with not only Pike Street Cafe, which is already opening. What's the name of the new place you're filling in with Anna's?
It's going to be Gracious Feast.
Gracious Feast. So that'll be a nice, and just so you guys know, so Pike Street Cafe does breakfast, brunch, and lunch, and Gracious Feast will be doing more dinner things, pop-up dinners, a lot of carry-out kind of stuff, and so the two will kind of complement one another. With this particular building that he's talking about, the 4631, with doing that with the courtyard, there is an entrance from the back side, which is really nice because anyone that would be coming into an event there can park in those two back lots, municipal lots on Station by the school, and be able to come in that back way. So that'll be a nice addition there as well.
But how would they walk? I'm just curious, how would they walk in? Would they walk kind of through the Walgreens drive-through? Is there another sidewalk?
That same, you know where the back entrance is to Pike Street?
Yeah.
It's right, if you look, when you're walking to their door, there's a gate, literally a chain link gate that's kind of diagonal from whatever that garage is.
Okay, so you'd walk the same kind of way that you'd get
Yeah.
Pike Street, but just curious.
And that would just be get into their back courtyard area. And then obviously the front door for the back. But the fact that it allows their customers access to those two parking lots is really huge.
Yeah, that's.
And that gives us another, event center that we got the Ventura event, the Ventura is what I believe it's actually going to be called there on the corner, which is a little bit bigger than this, but this is, be perfect for smaller events, campaign events, never know. So, any other questions for Mr. Patel?
Yeah, I'll just note too, I think it's really something we should all be proud of is the fact that you're reinvesting into a historical building here right on the Pike, and that you're going to bring it back up to essentially, almost former glory, you might say, but at least you're going to keep, you're going to have it maintained and repaired, because we've got enough teeth missing, I guess, on our Montgomery Road corridor. So I know I'm going to be happy to support this, and I definitely appreciate you bringing it forward, Mr. Governor. Thank you for.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Patel. Tom, Kathleen, thank you so much for your help as well in getting this. I know that when Mr. Patel reached out to me, man, this was literally just 3 weeks ago maybe, asking if the city offers any type of grants or anything like this. And I turned him over to Tom and Kathleen, and they immediately got the ball rolling got him the application right away, explained everything to him. He got it right back in. So this is really how this is supposed to work and for just these type companies. So really excited about it. So thank you for spending your money here. Thanks, Tom. All right, next up we have, we don't have anything, PLK said that they didn't have really anything to report yet. We're going to keep them on our agenda just because they're going to be coming a lot with just different things. So they just didn't have anything tonight. And so next up, the Joseph Group, if you guys would...
Things I'd like to hand out. My name is Tom Tepe. I'm an attorney for the Joseph Auto Group. Richard Joseph is here, and Steve Pitchell, who's the architect on the project. Just want to kind of throw a couple of things at you real quick if I could. May I?
Sure, absolutely.
Easier if I just do it this way. Sir. Thanks again for accommodating. When I saw the weather and it was going to snow, then I said, oh no, not again.
Excuse me. Thanks.
And I'll kind of walk through these things.
Thank you.
All right, I think that does it. Apologize for the delay. Again, I have the pleasure to represent the Joseph Auto Group tonight, who's very excited about this new project. What they're going to do, obviously, is they don't own the current location where the VW site is currently. They do own the property there located next to Stones and just north of the bike trail. They are been a long time corporate citizen of Norwood and hope to continue to be so. And I just want to make sure that there's been a lot of communication that we've seen, above ground, underground, everything about this project, and we just kind of wanted to go over a couple of the highlights about it. In addition to asking for a PUD to be approved, it came to our attention very late on that we need to have an ordinance amended. And you're going to say, well, what is this ordinance? Well, there was an ordinance that was enacted in 2014 that specifically prohibited basically what they're trying to do, auto-related uses. So one would say, all right, Joseph, then why did you spend that kind of money for that property knowing that the only business that you guys are in is prohibited on that property? And I'll ask that you please pull this one up. This is this piece of paper I gave you. I got this piece of paper, this packet, from my law firm's transaction file associated with it. As part of the due diligence, the Joseph family, through our law firm, contacted the city of Norwood, Mark Reeves, and you'll see, asked for a couple of questions to be answered. Mind you, this is before they purchased the property in November of 2017. The ordinance prohibiting auto-related uses, I think it was enacted in 2014. Excuse me. You can see, number 2, that says the property is zoned GBD, PUD, and may be used for the purposes provided in 1143 and 1155. Well, 1143 is the GBD section, and 1155 is the PUD section. There's also a section 6 at the bottom that says the owners can rely upon this letter. Nowhere is the ordinance prohibiting the auto-related use ever referenced in this zoning information received from Mark Reeves. Also that was sent was the very, very last page. And the reason I'm going through this is because I don't want people to think that they just don't like the rules of the game and they're trying to change them out. They didn't know what the rules were. Had they known that that ordinance existed prohibiting the use that their business is, would they have bought the property? He can answer it, but the answer is probably no. Probably not. Probably not. The very last page of this was a zoning map that was included in the information received from Mr. Reeves. What I find very, very interesting is this is in place at the time of the receipt of this information. You will see there's the legend up at the top left, right? All of these different colors associated with the different zoning districts. Below that, there are 3 PUDs that are referenced in the city of Norwood, right? And to the right of those, there's a specific ordinance reference. 2014, 1, 2, and 3. Again, nowhere in any of the information that the Josephs got from the city of Norwood is there a mention of this ordinance that was adopted in 2014. These were adopted in 2014. But, so they went into this thinking the property is zoned GBD PUD that would permit the use that for which they bought the property. I think the information would have been extremely helpful and enlightening to them prior to purchasing the property. They didn't have it. And I'll fast forward, when this project was getting off the ground, we met with Mr. Reeves. This was in, I'll call it summer, I think is when it was. At no time was that ordinance ever referenced. We met with the mayor and Mr. Perry, who was here. At no point was the ordinance ever brought to our attention. We met with Mr. DiNardo, and at no point was that ordinance ever mentioned or brought up. And it wasn't until, I think perhaps you might have brought it to our attention, or somebody else. I think I saw some correspondence from you, sir, that said, oh, by the way, here's this ordinance, right? So that was the very first time that the Joseph family was ever aware of an ordinance that prohibited auto-related uses on the property that they bought. And this was, they bought it in 2014, or excuse me, 2017. This was July, August of 2020. So that's why we need to have this, we're asking that the ordinance be amended. They didn't know about it. The information was requested. You know, we also have a letter from the mayor at the time who said, heck yeah, I'm supporting the redevelopment of the property for the VW. I mean, at no time was the ordinance ever referenced. So that's why we're here. We're asking for council to enact some legislation that would allow them to move forward with this development. They don't own the existing property, so, and therefore, and if you look at it, frankly, sorry, it's tired. It's time. It needs to be done, and VW said that as much. They said, that's it. This site's too small. It doesn't meet our current standards as it relates to the like kind of quality of the buildings that they want to have as their showpiece. And so that's why we are where we are. You know, the information that was not provided, obviously being the ordinance, I mean, brings up a whole litany of legal issues that I hope to be completely avoided by a favorable vote of council, because they believe in the merits of this project. I think it's good for Norwood. Not everybody will tell you that they love it. We've seen that. We appreciate their position. A lot of it involves the bike trail, right? And so when we were before Planning Commission, received a favorable recommendation, and prior to coming into this committee, Mr. Gabbard, we asked for time. We said, can we meet with Mrs. Gary and a couple other people who kind of seemed like they were the kind of the lead people that we could talk to? And we sat down and we talked to them. And we heard their vision, we heard their thoughts. They heard where the Josephs are, that they don't develop apartments with the coffee shop. That's just not what they do. They're car dealership owners. But what really became clear to them was the Wasson Way and how important it is, and how it's going to be transformative as it moves westward along the Xavier University property and everything else. And as you recall through some of the information, you know, the Josephs have committed to making improvements just adjacent to their dealership. Meaning right now, right before you get to Montgomery Road, there's a little cutout there. There's a bench. They would like to do additional landscaping over there. They'd like to put a water fountain there. They would like to put maybe, like, I think it's a bike pump, something like that that's conducive to the Wasson Way. And the landscaping, the additional landscaping is to help soften that view. If you go down that bike path, there's some pretty hard scapes as you go eastward from Montgomery Road, and they want to make sure that what they're doing, A, looks good because they're spending a lot of money on this thing and they're proud of it. B, they want to make sure that they listen to the people as it relates to the Wasson Way. To go one step further, there was an idea that Richard had, and I'm looking for that information, was this. If you find it in this packet, please. It's this packet. They own, at the very end of their property, they own this parking lot, which is at Regent. It's called the School Outfitters, right next to School Outfitters. It abuts the Wasson Way Trail. And so if you, we just did that, so obviously you guys know which property it is. I can't turn the page because I got to lick my finger. And then the next page is sort of a bigger picture of the property. Richard said, you know what? Let's make this parking lot available for users of the Wasson Way. And let's improve it similar to what we're committing to do down towards Montgomery Road with bike racks, fountain, that kind of stuff, some landscaping. Keep in mind, these improvements require a whole lot of coordination with the Wasson Way Trail people, with the City of Cincinnati, Parks and Rec. The commitment is there. We have to figure out how to get it done, but I can tell you the commitment is there to do this stuff. I mean, I think it would be a great addition. And in addition to meeting with this Gary and her group, we met with Sean McGorry and a couple of members of the Wasson Way Trail. He's the chairman of that committee. And we sat down and we showed them this stuff. We showed them the development plan, told them that it's going to be a car dealership. And their position is that they don't take positions on development. And I know Mr. Donardo may have had a conversation with them or not.
Yes.
But what they did tell us very clearly that if there is something that is proposed that is a detriment to the trail, they absolutely will speak up. And I have an email from Mr. McGorry, and we do not foresee the development having an impact on the usage and function of the trail. It's not absolutely, we think this is the greatest development in the world, but they're saying they don't believe that this will have a detrimental impact on the usage of the trail. And we talked about Montgomery Road and how some people saying, I think there was a quote we saw, this will threaten the westward expansion of the trail along the Xavier University property. And that this car dealership will make it more unsafe for people to cross Montgomery Road, right? First of all, it's a state and federal highway, and you have to deal with that as it is. Second of all, car dealerships, contrary to popular use, are very low traffic generators as compared to what can go there by right, which is a public parking garage, a transit center, some high volume retail and other things like that. But we talked about it, and they said there's going to be a traffic light that's put on Montgomery Road at the bike trail. And that they've already had significant discussions with the trail's expansion on Xavier University. Xavier's going to put it in just because there's politics stuff that goes along with it. But we were very encouraged after meeting with them. And the Josephs are very, very encouraged by the prospect of this new development. They're going to spend significant amounts. No CRA, no tax abatement is requested. They're going to do this and pay full freight. Just harping one last time on this parking lot, what Mr. McGorry told us, he says he believes that this will be the first parking lot dedicated for people to use the Wasson Way in 30 miles. I don't know if it's true or not, but certainly I can't think of one anywhere close. I think there's one out by my house in Columbia Township, Avoca Park. I think they do have that public parking, but they think that this is a great use of that parking space, that parking lot. The property is going to be first-class developed. Mr. Pitchell is here, who's the architect. The site plan speaks for itself, right? If you have specific questions on that, certainly here to answer those questions. It is what it is. And the pictures that we presented to you are just the larger size one. They're just a better and more accurate rendition or depiction of what it is. We weren't really happy with the way that the elevations came out in the application that was filed. Those are looking, obviously from the trail looking that way, as well as on Lexington sort of looking, southeast, if you will. I don't think that I have anything else to offer. We're here to answer questions. We know that some of you have had some contact from some residents who either are in favor or not in favor of it. They've been here a long time. They want to stay in Norwood. This is the property that they bought with the intention of moving this dealership to the city, keeping it in the city, moving it down. This is a 2-for-1, if you will. This property will be redeveloped, which is sorely needed, obviously. It's not particularly sightly at this point because it's an old coal yard. But when they, and if they get this new dealership up and running, the existing VW dealership will be ripe for redevelopment. So you're going to get two properties that are going to be upgraded. So I just would ask that you just keep that into consideration. I don't have anything further. I'd probably take up more time than I should. But Steve and Richard here are to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you for your time.
Questions?
I do have a copy of Mr. McGorry's email if you'd like to have it. I don't know.
I spoke to him.
Did you have multiple copies or just one?
I do.
Yeah, I'll take a copy of that.
The background on the email was just trying to figure out how, you'll see it, how do we coordinate, any potential improvements on here? Is it, who does it? Do we pay you guys to do it? Do we do it? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but the commitment is certainly there to do it as adjacent to the dealership as well as just outside of that proposed parking lot on Regent.
Yeah. So I appreciate being here tonight. Just I did want to comment on the Wasson Way, or their saying we don't take positions on development. Well, I mean, they're trying to solicit millions and millions of dollars of corporate donations right now. So I mean, I don't expect them to take positions. The actual Wasson Way board of directors, I don't expect them to take positions on this, especially something that would be adversarial to a very influential family in the metropolitan area. So it makes sense to me. I mean, but this is compelling just to hear from Sean about the adverse uses. I guess I just had questions about the existing site. So could you just describe who currently owns the existing site? Or I guess one, you said you have to move because you don't own it.
I'll allow Richard to get up and answer those questions.
Yeah. And I'll just hope you could confirm that. So you're saying that you don't own it, so that's why we have to move.
That's correct. Well, I mean, from a business sense standpoint, it obviously makes more sense for us to develop. If we're going to vastly improve a site like we're going to improve with this new dealership, it makes sense to own the property that it's on versus paying rent to another party.
Gotcha.
And so, existing site for VW's standards is too small. The new site is the developable area that we're looking at is just over 3 acres. And in addition, part of the agreement with Volkswagen approving us as purchasers of the franchise was that we would find a suitable site and build a new dealership. Because as Mr. Tepe pointed out, it's a very old dealership and is not up to VW franchise standards.
Gotcha. So could you describe, I mean, who currently owns, I guess, the site that you all are on?
Mr. Marsh, Tim Marsh.
Gotcha. Does he have any like affiliation, or does he like work for the dealership? Is there any connection other than
Yes.
him being the landlord?
Yeah, we have kept him on with the dealership.
Gotcha. So is there any other property nearby that is also owned by Mr. Marsh, or is that like could it is there? I guess I'm just curious. I mean, were there any options to include any neighboring parcels into a bigger dealership in the current location?
Frankly, we would have loved that, but no. All the existing adjacent properties, I believe, are owned by Xavier. What was the fish spot? Captain D's, was it Captain D's? And the dollar store there and that little mall area. The entire parking lot's owned by Xavier, I believe. Mr. Marsh owns, if you look at our lot, adjacent, actually kind of stuck towards the Xavier end of the lot, there's 2 houses. I believe those 2 houses are owned by him also. I'm pretty sure they are, as part of his entire property ownership, but that's a small little footprint. Sure. Thank you for your time.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
This is probably more for the lawyer. I'm sorry. In essence, what you're asking, or what's happened is we didn't know what the law was, municipal law ordinance. We didn't know what the law was. We made a decision. Now we're going to ask you to change the law because of the decision you made. Now, I understand that there were other factors at play. There's not a lot of instances where I can think where somebody gets a do-over because they didn't know what the law was before they did something that was impacted by the law. Which is what you're asking us to do. It's like saying, oh, well, the ignorance of the law, which wasn't necessarily your fault, which I will come back to, is the reason for asking for the change. If it wasn't for the fact that you weren't properly informed in the first place, my knee-jerk reaction would be to say, too bad. Because I don't think that places are in the habit of changing the law to accommodate mistakes that people make. My real worry here is the legal liability that may fall on the city, knowing this now, if we were to eventually deny this request. Or if we approve the request, that's great, you get to do what you need to do. If we deny the request, I could foresee a lawsuit coming saying we weren't properly identified, we weren't properly informed about this particular ordinance that was on the book. We made a significant investment. I'm only assuming that you would look to recoup some of that investment legally from the city. We have our associate law director here who might have an opinion on that. To me, that is the major worry.
Well,
I don't want to see a protracted legal fight coming out of this.
I would just say, I think that we should probably, I don't think Mr. Gary is going to be willing to speak in public on this. I think we should probably even avoid talking about any of the legal aspects of this until there can be, maybe we can have an executive session to...
I don't disagree. I want to stick to the merits of this. I want to stick to the merits of this. All I would say to you, sir, is I don't know what else we could have done, right? What more could we have done to try to find out what the property zoning is, which that ordinance affects the zoning, than to ask Mark Reeves, who's the guy, who says, here it is. And then a letter from the mayor says, can't wait. So we did, and we're pretty good at
That's fine, I get it. My point, and before we say anything else, is I don't think this is a matter that we solve sitting here in committee, and potentially not one we solve by voting for on council floor. This is potentially a legal matter that I think we need legal counsel on as counsel for this city.
Yeah, and I would just say, I agree. I think we
couldn't agree more.
We'll likely need some kind of an executive session to get, have an attorney-client privilege environment to understand what that could be. But I don't think that the law department's going to be prepared tonight to do that.
And we would have to have the full council to be able to do that.
Committees can do executive sessions, but it'd be better, again, for the law department to prepare for it.
I can't speak for you, but I agree. What I would tell you is that if the city voted in favor of quote-unquote what is before you tonight, I think those are probably a moot point.
So to help us out, I guess one question I think we can ask, if this were to be denied, do you imagine, it would help us if you could answer truthfully here, just because it gives us better cause so that we can talk to our attorneys on this as a council. But do you imagine there'd be a lawsuit that would be filed if it gets denied? And I would understand, I'm not...
Look, I work for him, right? I don't make those decisions. I can only counsel him on what my opinion is. What I would tell you is this, I don't want, if I answer yes, then all of a sudden we're coming in here playing the 800-pound gorilla. They spent $2.8 million on a piece of property for purpose of putting a dealership on there, and they went through and did all that they could do. At the time, you'll see from the email, The zoning code wasn't even online at the time. You could only look at it as a hard copy in the office. So they did what they wanted to do, but look at that dealership as compared to what's now. They're excited about the prospects of gussying that facility up, making it shiny, being a really, really neat thing that you see coming into Norwood on the bike trail with these amenities and a parking lot. That's the stuff that we want to focus on. The other stuff, Tim can sweat that out. He's a darn good lawyer. We've dealt with each other for years and years, and I've all the due respect for his legal acumen.
And that was not meant to be a gotcha question one bit. I just want you to know that. It was just, I mean, the Ohio Revised Code, I think, says for executive sessions, we have to have a threat of imminent or pending litigation.
Correct.
So I was just hoping you'd say yes, but I understand that you don't want to answer that, and that's okay.
I don't, because if it's approved, then I think we just go and start building a dealership.
I understand. So that's fine. So I would say, I mean, Mr. Gary, do you mind, can we talk about, do you think we could talk about the site plan without worries tonight? Or do you think we should?
Talk about the site plan?
Like the site, so the second part, so the PUD ordinance is the first part, I don't know if we should talk about that as much.
You
The
know,
second part is
to be honest
this.
with you, I don't know anything at all about this claim that the city has not steered them straight. The ordinance that was passed in 2014 was properly noticed, was properly passed by the council, and that's as far as I went with anything. I'm not acquainted with this, with their contact with Mr. Reeves or with the mayor or anybody else, to be honest with you.
Just from my standpoint, then I would be more comfortable if we didn't continue.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good call. And if you could provide could you provide our law department with a copy of everything?
I'll give Tim anything he wants.
Yeah.
I mean,
What I need is something to understand what you're saying.
I'll give you exactly what I gave them, and then you and I can follow up on calls. Not a big deal. We would like to look at the site plan tonight. We would absolutely love to answer questions as it relates to the who, what, where, why, when, and how, the nuts and bolts of this thing, because that is what's most important right now. All that other stuff, I didn't want it to take away from the merits of this thing, but I also didn't want people to say, you guys knew this, but you still are coming forward, and the answer is, we didn't know, honestly. But the site plan speaks for itself. We can answer the questions, and they're looking forward to, VW is on them, like you can imagine, to upgrade their existing facility. They are overdue with respect to this, and we ran into some bad weather. We asked for time to meet with people, which I think, by the way, the process works. We got some additional stuff. That parking lot was, I think, a product of that meeting with them. We'd like to move forward with the merits of this thing. So if you have any questions, but it's your committee, we'll do as...
I had a question for you guys. I think normally we don't do too much of this stuff if the planning commission already looks at it. But given that there's just so much community chat around this, what's a good way for folks to see pictures, like just to increase information? I'm asking us, like, as a council, do we post this something?
I would probably see if these website and Facebook page they could post.
I think it's a little. Normally we wouldn't do this, but this does seem to be quite hot, and I think that doesn't do anything for the legal issues. It's just putting.
Oftentimes, I've seen communities put the application and these things on their webpage.
Yeah, that's what I'm
The link,
saying. Maybe
that's
see
very
if Tom,
effective.
if Tom could take in and have all this copied and
Put a PDF of
put in a
everything up.
PDF
Sure,
form, and
yeah,
that way
absolutely.
people can browse through it all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's doing anything wrong, right? It's just
That's just putting information out there.
putting.
It's all public information right now since I've given it to you, so.
Yeah, it's just more, we don't normally do that because the planning commission kind of does that first gate for me, or at least in my head it does. But in this case, this does
Well, I
seem
mean, it
kind of hot.
is going to be a public hearing, before council on the first meeting in March, so.
That's the 9th, correct?
Yes, the first, or second Tuesday in March, so, yeah, the 9th. I think there's one question, though, I think that I feel like it'd be very legitimate to ask here. So what can we do to get that building closer to Montgomery Road? I mean, that is, if we didn't have a PUD in place right now, it would be out of compliance in zoning. And I'm not talking about anything in the special stuff in PUD, I'm just saying if it was just general business district, from everything I've heard, it would be out of compliance. So what can we do to get that building closer? Because I think that is, in all of this, site, everything, that is vital to have that, to not have a bunch of cars lining Montgomery Road. I mean, we could,
That's one of two things that have been the two biggest issues that have been brought to us, but at least to me, and
Yeah.
I think we
We
all
got
get
the
the
same
same emails, yeah. Two issues is, one, if this gets approved, why can't it be, closer to the street so we get away? What we're trying to do is whenever something comes into Norwood, Surrey Square, we would love for Surrey Square to be redeveloped and the store brought to Montgomery Road and parking in the back. We don't want to see the cars anyway, the whole thing. So that's number one, and then the curb cut, right?
Curb cut, yeah.
Yeah, the curb cut right there on Montgomery Road, which you alluded that there could be a potential light that goes in there, and I don't know that you would still be able to, if you were headed south, be able to make a left, at that particular spot with the way traffic is through there. But, I mean, that's to be seen. Those are the two main, things that come up in virtually all the emails that have been circulating.
Yeah.
So the first question.
just because there's people at home.
Yeah, just so people at home can hear.
Sure. So the first question, as far as moving it closer to Montgomery, a lot of the specs of the building, the layout, no, I shouldn't say a lot, it's dictated by VW, and that's how they wanted it, was set off the road. This is the way they do things, set off the road with the white frame that's shown there. And the second consideration is, just from a traffic pattern standpoint, getting cars in and out of there, it's because it's a very narrow lot. The way that it's set up with the service department off of Montgomery, which this, from a business standpoint and from a VW corporate standpoint, makes the most sense, and this is how they told us that they wanted it, and that's how Steve drew it. So it's, I don't, I guess we could ask, I don't know, number one, if they're going to put it on Montgomery. If we could move it closer, we can always ask. The traffic patterns would be what concerns me the most there.
You enter the service coming off of Montgomery Road, you drive right into the service, correct?
Correct.
If you were to bring that up, I think there's a concern that there would be some,
We would want a log jam.
there would be
back
some
on the
stacking that potentially would go into Montgomery Road. And also,
Running it in through the curb cut there.
well, the curb cut is vital to the operation of the
I
business.
mean, but that's where the service comes in at.
That's correct.
I
But
just
also
wanted
going
to
to utilize Lexington a lot. I mean, that's a very, very important part of it. But, that Montgomery curb cut is vital to the internal operation and circulation, circuity, if you will, of how this has been laid out by VW. If you think that the dealership or the VW doesn't have all the power, they got all the power. It's their way, period. So, and we have heard that. We've heard both of those issues before. And we've looked at it. I don't know if it's something, again, you're willing to go back to them and talk to them or not, or if you already have. I don't want to waste time.
The shorter answer from VW would be they prefer further back from the road, honestly. I've done a lot of these dealerships, I've done VW dealerships and other brands as well. Further back from the road in this case because the service entrance is in the front. That, like Richard said, that is mandated by VW. You can't enter the service on the side, into the building. Physically drive your car in. So if it's set back from the road, early in the morning, most of the service customers come in, and there's some room for them to not be backed out onto Montgomery Road. Ideally, it'd be further back from Montgomery Road. The other thing, nobody said, if you bring the building closer to Montgomery Road, and I think I think what you're talking about is actually right on the property line. Now you come out of the bike path and you've got your hazard again.
I would say, it doesn't have to be at the property line. It could be 20 feet, within 10 or 20 feet. There could
And
be
then
some.
the third thing I was going to mention was the cars are up front. And this is a VW thing, but it's a car dealership thing. They're selling cars. So it is a little different than
a Starbucks that can be out in the front of the road or something like that, we can park in the back. They're selling cars, so they want the cars to be out in front.
And I hear you, I understand that they're selling cars. I would just say that we have a zoning code that's geared towards creating a pedestrian-oriented environment. And so we want people to be able to walk to shops and be able to enjoy the area, to go to Betta's, to go to Stone's, and you know, walk down the street. We're trying to create that. And this is a complete opposite use of that. And so what, you know, the uses of the trail, the impact on the trail, what have you, I mean, that's one thing. But just in general, what we're trying to create on our Montgomery Road corridor, and from our Montgomery Road plan that just got, did we approve that at council, Gabby, or is that, we approved our Montgomery Road plan at council?
The resolution?
That's coming up as
Yeah,
well.
so soon to be approved Montgomery Road, I guess, corridor plan. I mean, we want buildings to be closer. So, and the curb cut as well, I think that's pretty important to look at. I see what you're saying, that they're just going to pull right in and go right into the garage. I mean, this thing would be great in, you know, the Kings area. This thing would be great in Westchester. It doesn't quite fit exactly what I think our vision is for Norwood, and what many people in our community's vision is for Norwood. I guess that's the concern. And it's, you know, to us, it's always just been, well, we're here to sell cars. And it's like, I hear you. And I'm not saying that that's you saying that. I mean, it's fine. But we want this to fit in with our community, because that's where we are. I mean, so that's what I have with that.
Keep in mind what Mr. Tepe said about it, the 2-for-1. I mean, I guess the way I look at it is, now you have a rundown rail yard that's been that way for 20 years. I don't know how long. Just as long as I can remember. It's been like that. If we don't end up not putting a dealership there, I don't know what will become of it. Who knows? Secondly, if we were to put our dealership up the street, then that corner of Montgomery and Clenay, or is it
Plenty.
I didn't know if it changes names when it crosses over Montgomery. But either way, that corner then gets developed by most likely Xavier or some development company into something absolutely beautiful and spectacular. So, I mean, you're getting an uplift on both sides, and it's just the way I would foresee it happening, that it would be a vast improvement on both sides.
I would just say, respond to the 20-year comment. I mean, yes, the railroads held on to it for a very long time, and, you know, without any significant use or any use at all. That doesn't necessarily and mean that that's what it's going to be forever. And so, you know, yeah, I've heard that argument with the Planning Commission, that it's looked bad for as long as it has. Well, I mean, I would argue that you all are the owners now of it. So if it looks bad, it's really on the property owner.
We want to improve it.
I understand. I'm just saying, but if you're commenting, I understand. Yeah, trust me, I understand. So just because it's looked bad in the past, I don't think that's necessarily like complete justification to move forward. But I
agree with you. I understand.
Any other questions? I think we definitely are going to need to probably bring this up at council on Tuesday and be able to talk with Tim about, you know, how do we proceed on this either way. Just kind of get, you know, legal advice from them. But any other questions from you guys?
No, very clear.
We appreciate you guys coming tonight.
Thank you.
Regardless of which way this goes, you know, I appreciate you taking the time to come tonight. Sorry it's been, you know, obviously the weather last week and got taken back from us from a little bit, but we appreciate your patience with us and everything as well. We will, you know, talk with, you know, our law department, have conversations with them, see which way we need to proceed on these. And then we'll get back with you.
Somebody, you
Yeah,
will?
me or Mr. Gary or somebody will.
Okay,
One of us
great.
will, yeah. We have council Tuesday, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to put it on that at this point yet. I mean, that's, again, I'll have to check with him and see if we can get it to where we could do.
Yeah, and there won't be any, I mean, I think what Mr. Gabbard is referencing is potentially an executive session for us to be informed. There won't be any official action before the public hearing. So there's no need to worry, I guess, about that.
Right.
I don't
Council will go into executive session, come out with no action, formal action date.
Correct, yes, correct.
Understood.
And then we still have you scheduled for March 9th for the public
Great.
hearing there.
Can you make sure that other members of council that are not present this evening would receive copies of those also?
I was going to see if they're beyond just the members of council. I was going to see if we can put it on like the website or whatever the heck it is.
Which I think
he's talking about
You're talking about the evidence that you're trying to bring here?
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever you guys put on the website, whatever you think needs to be put up there.
well,
But as far as the other...
yeah, that probably won't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't envision that it would, but I think it would be helpful perhaps that be transmitted to the other...
I get what you're saying, and yes.
When you send the law department, I mean, I don't know if you're planning on sending PDFs to the law department with the evidence. If you could, if you do just give them PDFs, we can make sure that
I'm going to give Tim copies of them before I leave this evening.
Okay, well, we can probably scan them.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Cool.
We actually finished quicker than I thought. Pastor James, did you have any words that you wanted to share tonight? You asked if there was going to be any hearing from the public.
Well, in all due respect to everyone's time, I'll make it as brief as I ever have. First of all, mark on your calendars, February the 27th will be our second Black History Month parade right here in Norwood, Ohio. The very first time in Norwood's history. And I want to commend, along our first celebrated parade, there were folks that were cheering us on and really showing an appreciation for the things that mean a lot to the African American community, and that meant a lot to us. And I want to also give kudos to Councilman Gabbard, who came and really saw and witnessed the tears and the joy and how excited people are. And recently Xavier was part of a vicious act of hate, and to see those students come together, and we were able to partner together and come for a ceremonial celebration. It was phenomenal. But on February the 27th, every street in Norwood is going to be traveled simultaneously. And we will have banners on all the cars, balloons, but there won't be any resident in Norwood that won't be able to say, that will be able to say that they're not aware of Black History Month. And the way we're doing it, just so you know, the legal department's listening, or the police or whoever, it's public property to drive your car down any street. And as long as we don't impede upon the traffic or anything like that, so they're just going to drive as if they're driving home, and they're going to be balloons, but we really want Norwood to come out. It's great to see all of these cumbersomes, all of these cumbersome details, but this is real simple. We put up signs that say Black Lives Matters. I get it. But come out from your houses, come out from behind the signs, and let's show. The reality is, I sent all of council the invite. I haven't gotten any notices back. I sent a message out to our wonderful mayor asking for a proclamation. Didn't get an email back even. Not even, hey, it's a good idea. We've got to stop how we used to operate. When you see somebody doing something good, guys, at least email them back. And let's not wait until we come into council chambers. You don't even call me. You don't even say hello. But then you get folks coming spending money, and then you want to say, oh, by the way, this is Pastor James, and da-da-da-da. Hogwash. This isn't about politics. Black History Month is not a political thing for us. It's a life journey. So show black people that they really matter by participating. Economic inclusion. When you eat, we want to eat. When you build, we want to build. But we've got to do it together. And I believe that we can. I believe we're moving in the right direction. But we've got to cast out that old. And I'll just leave with this. I'm personally so embarrassed that intelligent people But look at stuff, and we can see how Norwood has worked for years. The blind leading the blind. And then they come and now you got to redo stuff. Let's get stuff right the first time. And then we don't have to embarrass ourselves. Of course, my attorney isn't here, but if he were here, he'd be going, uh-oh. You guys know that. So let's work together. Let's show how beautiful Norwood is. Let's correct the wrong. And just because some of your peers don't reach out, you stand up and stop it and say, hey, I cannot do that anymore. Or let's just keep embarrassing ourselves. I love this community. I'm so grateful. February 27th, please come out. We're also having some soul food cooking. Go on www.elevationsenrichment.com and find out how you can compete. We've got children and adults trying to cook soul food out there now. And at the end, one person's going to get a $50 gift certificate to a local soul food restaurant. God bless you all. Watch our movies on Saturday night. We're moving in the right direction, guys. Let's just keep it going. And when your peers don't want to reach out to a man that looks like me, tell him shame on himself. Everybody has a right to be treated equal. Talk to your peers, guys. God bless.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, if there's nothing else, this concludes the Economic Development Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys want to sign?